Hi. I have a question for Trump and Harris. Both of you have come forward and said that you want to eliminate taxes on tips for waitstaff. And I think that's a very, very fine idea. Are you also going to make sure that the employers aren't taking a percentage of the tips for themselves, or that the employers are removing one of the benefits of a tip, and that is that you get tipped based on two things: the ability of the buyer to give you what they think you're actually worth, which is hard to do for many of us. I know there are many times when I wanted to give more than I could afford to give, especially since the cost of going to a restaurant has increased so much. And secondly, the performance of the waitstaff, of the host, not the host, the server, waiter, waitress, whatever you want to call them. Did they do well? Now, one of the problems that happens there is if the food is crap, then often the waitstaff, the person serving, gets a ding. They lose some of the tip that they would get. If the food comes out late, if the food comes out in the wrong order. Like recently I went to a slightly expensive restaurant that supposedly serves European food. Of course, it's been Americanized. And the food came out in the wrong order. One of the last things to come out was my salad. And it came along with the entrees. And with the entrees also came another appetite thing that should have come out earlier, and that was potato pancakes. And it was like the first thing that came out was my son's soup. And it was just a mess. But I didn't take that out on the waitress because I understood it wasn't her fault. So there are those two problems. The ability of the consumer to pay a fair tip and the quality of the service provided by the waiter or waitress, waitstaff. So what happens if you go to a restaurant where the tips are collected by the owner and distributed evenly between all of the waitstaff? Do you know what that means? That means it is useless for you to put on your card the tip because it'll be divided equally. So the waiter or waitress who is the worst will get the same amount of tips as the star of the restaurant. And that's just dumb because you disincentivize the top performers from being the top, and you disincentivize the people at the bottom from doing better. And everybody starts to slide toward the bottom end. So if you're going to give a tip at a restaurant where they state that the tips are divided equally, give it to the person in cash when the manager cannot see it, so they can't try to confiscate it from the employee. But this is all an aside. The question I have for you, Mr. Trump and Mrs. Harris, is this. Why is it that the base salary of waitstaff has changed almost not at all in my life? They earn, what is it, like $2.75 an hour? So if you're going to forgive their tip taxes, which is the majority of their income, by the way, for those who don't understand this, you should also either raise the minimum wage for waitstaff because they're working. If you're at a restaurant that's a lower end restaurant, it's going to be very hard for you to get enough extra money from tips. Unless, say, you're working the late shift and you get fondled and stuff by all the creeps, and you get all these drunks coming in causing problems. But drunks tend to tip more, so it's a trade-off. But the late shift, that can be very risky. You can end up getting raped. So are you going to raise the minimum wage for waitstaff as well? So at least they know that if they're at a crappy restaurant where the average tip is like maybe 5%, they're going to go home with enough money. Yeah, I mean, that should be something that you talked about when you were talking about tax-free tips. But you didn't, because it's not the gimmick. Now, I don't really care who came up with the idea first. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if Trump came up with it first and Kamala jumped on the bandwagon, because that just shows they have something in common. She liked his idea. What is it? What is the expression? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So Trump should be flattered that she imitated him. And vice versa if it was her idea first. I don't really care. But, it is an important question that I would love to hear the answer to from Trump and Harris. I'm pretty sure I won't get the answer, but I would love to know. So tell me what you think about what I've said. If you are a person who is or has been a waiter or waitress or whatever, waitstaff, please tell me about your experiences. Tell me about how you feel about tax-free tips, how you would feel about getting also a wage increase, since it hasn't happened in how long for you guys? I would love to know. Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you for watching my video. And I hate doing this, but things have gotten pretty sketchy with my employer, and without going into all the details, which I have covered at other times, at least in part, I need some financial assistance. If you have the opportunity to do so, that's great. If you don't, even if you can just put in a word of support in the comments, that helps. To have even just that is good. But financially, I need to be able to carry on doing what I'm doing with these channels. Not so much this channel, not so much the Eclectician channel, which is mostly just me learning about stuff and sharing it with you, but with my Glenn's Fast Reviews channel, where most of what you see that I review, I've purchased myself, or I've gotten at a food pantry, or somebody gave to me because they know I do reviews. But I have invested huge amounts of money in it. And at this point, with a little over 1,800 viewers, I'm earning maybe $125 a month, which doesn't cover the cost of what I've done, let alone the ongoing cost. And then even worse than that is my third channel that's the PC Expert Amateur, which I've invested a large sum of money that I should have been saving for my retirement, because I wanted to be able to present a lot of information about fans and air coolers and water coolers for computers and other things as well. And in order to do that, I had two choices. I either had to make deals with manufacturers and sell my soul, or stick to my ethics and pay for things myself in order to not be beholden to somebody and not feel like, oh, I owe them. So yeah, it's pretty costly. And with the situation with my employer, Amazon, in which the workers' compensation company Sedgwick refuses to fix my shoulder, which was injured at work over a period of months last year, because Amazon's management refused to abide by their own policies to provide me support. I may end up having to pay for the surgery myself with the help of my insurance, and that will still be very expensive. and then I would be out of work for at least a month. So switching to another job, it would be hard, because if I come to you and I say, hey, I want to work for you, and you're like really interested in me, and then I say, oh, by the way, in the near future, I'm going to be having a shoulder replacement, so I will probably be out of work for a month. You're probably going to say, I'll pass, thanks, though, which would actually be illegal, and you won't tell me that's why you're not choosing me. But it is a problem, especially with me being as old as I am. I'm almost 58. So if you could please, if you can either go to the my YouTube channel, Glenn's Fast Reviews, and you can make any kind of a donation on there, any size, any time you want, through that, because that's my monetized channel. Or you can go to patreon.com. That's patreon.com/Glenn M.I. That's GLENNMII. And you can make a recurring donation. The smallest one I have on there right now is $10. If that's too big for you to give on a monthly basis, let me know. I can always add a smaller one than that. I just need to know. But again, if you are financially strapped, please don't send me money. I don't want somebody else getting into trouble financially just to help me. That would weigh very heavily on my conscience. So thanks again for watching this video, and let's make the world a better place.